You are so cheeky as a housekeeper. If you're not earning a single penny, then get out right now," said my husband's mother, Linda. She stuck a safety pin into my cheek and uttered those words. "But isn't it your son, who hasn't earned a single penny?" I replied. "Don't lie, you're a real mess. That's why I hate you." With those insults, a sharp sound echoed. She slapped my cheek. After the safety pin incident, a slap followed. I held my red cheek with my hand. "I won't forgive you all anymore. Go to hell and be ready for the consequences," I thought. I sold all the furniture and appliances to a recycling shop and moved back to my parents' house. The next day, Linda came to my parents' house, enraged, shouting, "Come out quickly, you damn bastard. The house is empty." But, more furious than her, my parents took action. In a shocking retaliation, Linda turned paler and paler, her face becoming ashen. My name is Aspen, and I'm currently 31 years old. I loved reading novels and magazines. Once, I decided to try writing a novel myself, and got hooked on writing. I realized the charm of writing, applied to several companies for writing jobs, and successfully got a position. Now, I write short stories for comics and magazines, and work on various articles. My husband, Weston, and I met at a nearby bookstore. Still new to my job and struggling with the lack of novel ideas, I wandered around, hoping to get some ideas from other authors. As I perused the bookstore, I noticed someone engrossed in a short story I had written, published in a corner of a magazine. Excuse me. How do you feel about that story?" I asked. I'm not the type to approach strangers, but I was so captivated by this guy's intense focus that I wanted to hear his opinion. Lately, I had been in a slump, feeling anxious about not coming up with any new story ideas. Weston, looking quite surprised at being suddenly approached by a stranger, said, "Whoa. Oh, sorry. I surprised you. I wrote that story, actually. I just wanted to know what our readers think. But I'm sorry bothering you." "What? You wrote this?" "The story is packed with no gaps, even though it's a short piece, and the more I read, the more interesting it gets." I was completely enchanted. "Oh, well, that's so heartening." Amidst the overwhelming anxiety, it was genuinely delightful to see his eyes sparkle as he talked about the piece I had written. Is this fate? I, carried away by this thought, said to him, If it's okay, could I have your number?" As if saying please, I extended both hands in front of him. "Of course it is okay. I never expected the author of this story to be so beautiful." No, you are so sweet to say that." "Actually, I thought you were really cute, so that's why I spoke to you." Indeed, he was tall and handsome. It was partly because of his good looks that I couldn't help but strike up a conversation. From that point on, whether it was for feedback on my novels, or for whatever reasons, we started meeting, and our relationship naturally developed into something more. We, who believed we had a fateful encounter, dated and got married around 6 months later. Societally, it might be considered a so-called whirlwind romance. After getting married and finishing the wedding, Weston and I, as a couple, were also discussing building our own home in 2 years, looking forward to our future married life together. However, a few days after our marriage, I would be overwhelmed by a significant anxiety. "Can we live with my mom?" Weston asked. "Huh? Live with your mom? Why all of a sudden? You never mentioned anything like this before we got married. Her legs aren't in great shape, and she seems worried about living alone," he explained. "She lost her husband to illness for years before we married. She has been living alone ever since, but I had never heard about her having trouble with her legs. Did she have trouble with her legs? I've never heard about it before, I asked. Actually, she fell down the stairs and broke a bone recently. Plus, didn't we talk about building our own home in about 2 years? Wouldn't it be better for my mom, as well as for our savings, to live in Mom's house for a while? Well, but... Certainly, at the beginning of our marriage, we had talked about purchasing our own home in about 2 years. And now, having just married, our savings weren't substantial. Moreover, if she had broken a bone, she must be leading a challenging life. Reluctantly, I agreed to live with my husband's mother. Soon after, our new life with Linda began. Living together seemed to accumulate stress, almost mirroring my worry. Even before moving in, there were requests like, "My FRDGE and TV are old. Can you guys replace them? Since I'm letting you live here without rent, it's only fair." While it was true that we wouldn't be paying rent and would stay at her place for a while, it felt inevitable to replace almost all the appliances. "Please get your own bed and storage shelves," we were told, so we bought all the necessary furniture. Since Wetson had little savings, before we got married, I used the savings I had accumulated during my single days to purchase both furniture and appliances. Even with these challenges, when the new life here at Linda's house started, her attitude escalated. "Hey, Aspen! There's dust accumulating in the corner of the stairs. This is my house, you better keep it clean." Even though she calls it her house, it's also ours now. And there's no dust. Despite thinking this, I couldn't say it out loud. "I just vacuumed a little while ago." "I'm sorry. You don't even know how to use a vacuum. You really are a useless girl," she said, leaving and returning to her room. At first, I thought it was understandable that she couldn't help with housework due to her broken leg, but now, with the cast removed, she was walking normally. Linda, your leg seems to have healed, and I'm working too. Can't you help with some housework?" Summoning courage, I asked her to assist with household chores, but she replied, "Ouch, my leg still hurts, so it seems impossible." As long as who can move keeps moving, it's fine. Sighing heavily, I moved my tired body after work, retackled the vacuum as instructed by her, and prepared dinner for the 3 of us as myself, Linda, and Weston. I thought she had finally returned to her room after dinner, even though she was still complaining, when suddenly Wetson started nagging about bringing him beer. "Hey! Bring me some beer! And we're running out of snacks! You're so thoughtless! Are you still drinking? Maybe you should stop. You have work tomorrow, right?" I sighed as I said this to him. Already, there were 5 empty beer cans lined up on the desk. "Huh? Shut up! I'm still drinking. Who cares about work tomorrow? Just bring it already, I am not asking your opinion." "Fine." He loves alcohol, and this is how it goes every day when he comes home from work. He drinks multiple beers, and just complains loudly. Since we started living with Linda, his attitude has been getting worse. It's not right to let them continue like this without contributing anything. Thinking this, I took a bold step. "I'm quitting my job." "Huh? Why? That's ridiculous. Who's going to pay the bills?" "I've decided to work as a freelance writer. It's hard to balance household chores and work, so I want to at least reduce the commuting time. Plus, freelancing can be more lucrative." Yes, I decided to leave my current job. I wanted to exchange my commute time for time spent on household chores. Moreover, I had always wanted to work as a freelance writer anyway, and to break free from this stressful life with them, I wanted to earn more on my own and create a more comfortable working environment. At first, Wetsun grumbled, but as I started earning more than my previous job, the complaints gradually faded away. During that time, as I started doing more household chores, I thought that even if only a little, my stress might be relieved. However, I quit my job. Wetsun casually dropped this bombshell, leaving me speechless. Huh? Why? Is it true? Yeah, starting tomorrow, I don't have to go to work anymore. I can't stand my manager. We don't get along. There are better companies out there. You quit because you don't like your boss. And you don't have a clear idea of the next job? I don't. I don't need to look for a job right away. Let me take a break for a bit. Taking a break is fine, but what about the living expenses during that time? Weren't we living together to save money for our first home? How are we going to buy a house? In this situation? Shut up. Always nagging. Just let me take a short break. You can cover my living expenses during that time. We always decided the living expenses for Linda among the two of us, contributing a certain amount each, and the remaining money was free to use. However, quitting his job without consulting me, he insisted that I contribute double the amount he was paying. Well, I'm earning more than at my previous job, but I don't have an infinite amount of money. It's impossible for me to cover the living expenses for 3 people on my own salary. I promise it'll be just for a month. Just give me a month to rest, and I'll find a job. You are able to cover my expenses during that time, aren't you? Stop being so stingy. It's annoying. The arrogant remarks from him are infuriating, but in any case, someone has to pay for expenses to sustain our life. Reluctantly, I agreed to cover him for 1 month. However, after quitting his job, he spends his days at local bars and drinks heavily every night. As for Linda, her leg fracture had long since healed, and she took liberties with the money I set aside for living expenses. She would order sushi deliveries or go out for lunch, all funded by the money I had allocated for our household. One day, even when I was working at home, she looked at me with disdain and said, "You're still at home. You always seem so idle, just fiddling with your laptop. I worked much harder in my younger days. It's unbelievable," she said, clearly looking down on me. She retired last year, but had worked as a full-time employee until the age of 60. Perhaps because of this, she showed no interest in understanding my remote work activities. What? Idle? I'm working from home now. Remote work? Being at home every day looks idle. Stop giving off an impression of being busy. She dismissed my explanation, refusing to listen. Even I, patient as I was, had reached my limit. Hey, Weston. When are you going to start looking for a job? You said it would be just a month. Are you really looking? And your mother, taking out money without permission, ordering deliveries, going out for lunch. It's enough. We can't afford such luxuries in this household. Oh well, not this again. I am looking for a job, okay? And what can I do about Mom? Thanks to her, we don't pay rent for the place. Even if we don't pay rent, with your drinking habits, and her spending money like this, we are not saving at all. What's your problem? Shut up. A woman shouldn't go against a man like this. You are annoying. I'm going to bed. He stomped upstairs, closed the door with a loud bang, and deliberately avoided coming out of his room. When things didn't go his way, he would always quickly retreat to his room and isolate himself. And what's with the remark, "A woman shouldn't go against a man"? It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. It's truly infuriating. This life with him and his mother might be reaching its limit. As I contemplated the future, while sitting on the living room sofa, Linda, with an angry expression, approached me.
I heard it, Aspen. What is it? You're complaining about me, ordering deliveries and going out for lunch, aren't you? Living off my son's money every day, lazing around the house, and yet, you call me an ungrateful person. Disrespectful.
Hold on a second. I don't know what she heard from my husband, but does she really think I'm at fault?
I'm the one paying the living expenses alone. It's troubling for you and Weston to live such a luxurious life. You are so cheeky as just a housekeeper. Don't talk back to me.
Suddenly, she took out a safety pin from her pocket and threatened to stab my cheek. Shocked by the abruptness, I felt in danger and couldn't move. Blood started flowing from my cheek.
You, an arrogant housekeeper earning nothing, leave this house right now.
With those words, she left the living room. My legs trembled in fear. This is it. I can't live with these people. I can't endure it any longer. That day, I made up my mind.
I won't forgive you anymore. Go to hell, and be ready for the consequences.
The next day, Wetson said,
I'll be late tomorrow. I don't need dinner. Just buy some drinks for when I come back. Okay, our housekeeper?
And left in a cheerful mood. He's probably going to bars again. As for Linda, she said,
You're still at home? Leave before I come back,
as usual, made a sarcastic remark, and left the house. The moment both of them left the house almost simultaneously, I did what I had reserved the day before. I sold all the furniture and appliances I had bought with my money to a second-hand store. Then, I packed my belongings and moved to my parents' house. Yesterday, when I consulted my mother about being stabbed with a safety pin by Linda, she seemed quite shocked.
I can't believe they would do such a thing. It's unbelievable. How could they treat my daughter like this? Absolutely unforgivable. You must not forgive them either.
My mom's anger exploded even more than mine. Suddenly, she said,
I have a good idea. Let's make sure them regret treating my daughter like that.
After that, my mother and I discussed and devised a plan. Originally, everything was bought by me. They have no right to complain. We could have used them at my parents' house, but I didn't even want to bring things that had been used in the same space as those people. So, I sold everything. With everything settled, the move was completed that night. After the move, Linda's house was almost empty, devoid of furniture and appliances. At night, there were numerous calls from Wetson and Linda, but I ignored them all. On that night, well past 10 p.m., the doorbell of my parents' house rang suddenly. When I checked, there were Wetson and Linda.
Hey! There's nothing inside the house. It's you, right, Aspen? Hey! You bastard! Cut it out! Come out quickly! You're just causing trouble for others.
They were both pounding on the front door. A loud noise echoed. My father, who had heard my story, turned red with anger and went out to the front door.
It's a nuisance to the neighborhood. Think about it for a moment. Come inside and let's talk.
He said that and invited them in. Although they seemed somewhat surprised, when my father welcomed them, once they confirmed my presence, they started getting angry again.
Aspen! So you were here after all? What did you do with my house's belongings? When I came home, it was all gone.
While shaking her fist, Linda, who seemed quite angry, I calmly explained.
All of those things were bought by me. So, it doesn't matter how I handle them, right? Besides, didn't you tell me To get out of the house? You, living off my son's money without earning a penny, dare to say that? Your son is the one, not earning a penny, isn't he? Don't lie, you're a real mess. That's why I hate you.
With those insults, a sharp sound echoed. She slapped my cheek. After stabbing me with a safety pin, she resorted to a slap. While holding my reddened cheek with my hand, I said,
"Why not ask your son directly, if he's really been earning?"
My husband looked quite awkward, glancing around and behaving suspiciously. Finally, she must have realized that her son wasn't working.
"Weston, is it true? You about work?" "Well, I quit my job and was looking for a new one, but it's been tough to find something." If that's the case, then Aspen really covered all the living expenses for us?" "Yeah."
She seemed shocked to learn that her son wasn't working, and for a while, she couldn't find her voice. Meanwhile, my mother and father were about to drag them further into hell. Suddenly, the police entered the house. In reality, my parents, who had witnessed the scene, had called them. Well, of course. Their daughter had been stabbed in the cheek with a safety pin yesterday, and was now being slapped in front of them. As the police arrived, Linda and Wetson turned pale.
"Who called them? What's going on? You've gone too far. Cut it out." "To my precious daughter."
With red eyes and gritted teeth, my father glared at them. My mother tries to calm down my father, who looked like he might hit them at any moment. I reported to the police about Linda stabbing my cheek with a safety pin and slapping me. In the midst of this, Linda and Wetson were having some kind of argument. They were shifting blame onto each other.
"Mom, did you really do something like that to her? Why would you do such a thing? Is it because of you that she left? What about our future life? It's because you quit your job without telling anyone."
Amidst their heated exchange, both of them were taken into custody. Later, Linda was arrested for assault, as the stab wound on my cheek was clearly visible. My husband, living alone in the now empty house, seemed to be a mere shell of his former self. Without a full-time job, he struggled to make ends meet, juggling both day and night part-time jobs. It's really ironic. I returned to live with my kind parents, and now, my life is more stable. I shared my bitter experience of this real story on social media, and to my surprise, it received an overwhelming response. Many people requested a full-length novel based on this, and the momentum led to the publication of a book. The book became a massive hit, even featured on TV. With the sales success, I started receiving passive income. Grateful for my parents who rescued me from that hell, I gifted them a trip abroad. Next spring, we plan to embark on a family trip around Europe.